The wealthy mistress links arms with her husband, standing on a stage, basking in brilliant glory and soaking up everyone's admiration. Their image as a loving couple is being loudly praised by the media. But who would have guessed? The moment they turn their backs, the husband immediately warns his wife not to speak to anyone and to just wait for the right moment to leave the hall. Seol-hee's smile freezes for a split second, but quickly returns to normal. As a daughter-in-law of a tycoon family, she understands perfectly well that she cannot show any negative emotions. Otherwise, she would bring shame to her husband's family. Watching her husband handle things so skillfully, greeting everyone, Seol-hee feels a mix of pride and inferiority. The people present here are all high-ranking officials and aristocrats. They talk about politics that she doesn't understand at all. She feels she isn't worthy to stand beside her husband to socialize. Seol-hee walks awkwardly around the banquet hall, trying to maintain an elegant and polite smile. She goes to greet her mother-in-law and a group of wealthy wives. The ladies ask perfunctory questions about her education, and hearing this, her mother-in-law's expression immediately changes. She shows her disgust and tells her to leave quickly. At this moment, she sees her husband laughing and talking happily with a woman in the distance. It turns out her husband does have a gentle side, but why is he so cold to her? Seol-hee is filled with self-pity, but she can only swallow her tears. Even worse, the hotel staff are whispering behind her back, spreading rumors that Seol-hee was originally just a commoner, and who knows what tricks she used to marry Ji-wook. Seol-hee can't take it anymore and marches over to scold the staff. But after scolding them, she feels even more bitter. This situation of being despised by her husband's family isn't happening for the first time. Friends are jealous that she married into a wealthy family and enjoys a life of luxury, but only she understands the suffering inside. Seol-hee then sadly invites her best friend to a bar to dance. Both of them realize that the singer performing at the bar is Ran-hee, their classmate from school. Ran-hee is a singer, but she doesn't have many shows, so she often takes gigs singing at bars. Coming to the bar this time, not only do they meet an old friend, but that friend is being harassed by a guest with bad intentions. It looks like Ran-hee is about to be forced into unwanted contact. Hearing the screams, Seol-hee's naturally strong personality explodes, and she rushes over to teach the guy a lesson. The consequence of the brawl is being taken to the police station. It is only now that Seol-hee feels terrified. If her husband's family finds out, it will be terrible. But what must come will come. Ji-wook personally arrives to bail her out. Seeing Seol-hee with disheveled hair, his expression is one of utter disgust, and of course, there is no shortage of criticism. Afterwards, Ji-wook gets out of the car right at the hotel entrance. They have been married for 3 years, but Ji-wook has never come home. He always stays at the hotel. Seol-hee swallows her pride to beg him to come home with her, but in return, she only gets mocked with the words that since Seol-hee already has the title of Miss Cha, she shouldn't expect anything else. As Seol-hee prepares to leave, she sees the woman who was intimate with her husband at the party appear at the hotel. Her intuition tells her that the relationship between the two of them is not simple. Seol-hee then returns home alone, facing the empty bedroom, her mood absolutely terrible. Early the next morning, her mother-in-law makes a huge fuss, demanding to take her to the hospital to check if she is infertile. It turns out Seol-hee was pregnant before marriage. It was thanks to the baby that she was able to marry Ji-wook, but unfortunately, she suffered a miscarriage. After that, there's been no news from her belly. Over these years, she has been scolded by her mother-in-law countless times. But having not shared a room with her husband for years, how can she possibly have a child? Helpless Seol-hee can only silently endure her mother-in-law's scolding and obediently follow all her demands. After finishing the checkup at the hospital, Seol-hee follows her mother-in-law and once again has to listen to her berating. Seol-hee then accidentally runs into her younger sister, who is interning there. The two sisters haven't seen each other for a long time. Seol-hee wants to talk to her sister, but her sister pays her no mind, showing disgust at her sister's servile appearance in her husband's family. No one could understand Seol-hee. It was only because she loved Ji-wook that she endured everything. For 3 years, Seol-hee persisted in this one-sided love. Sometimes she would have a mental breakdown, but she never once thought about divorce. While Seol-hee was tasting the bitterness of her marriage, fate dealt her another heavy blow. Her younger sister was diagnosed with leukemia and needed an immediate bone marrow transplant. Fortunately, Seol-hee's marrow was a perfect match for her sister, but her mother-in-law firmly opposed her donating bone marrow, citing the excuse that she was in the preparation stage for pregnancy and could not undergo surgery. Seol-hee never expected her mother-in-law to be so heartless. That was her only sister. Seeing that her mother-in-law was adamant, Seol-hee had no choice but to go to Ji-wook. Before she could even finish her sentence, she was rejected. Ji-wook didn't want any family discord, so he told her to just follow his mother's arrangements. Seol-hee couldn't take it anymore and exploded. Extracting bone marrow and preparing for pregnancy were not in conflict at all. That was her own flesh and blood sister. How could they be so cruel? Ji-wook, who had absolutely no feelings for her, heard this and scolded her, saying that if she was capable of using a pregnancy to force him into marriage, she should have been able to keep the baby. Since the baby was gone, she had to be obedient and not anger his mother. Ji-wook even bluntly stated that he never wanted to marry Seol-hee in the first place. He was only forced into it because she was pregnant. Now that the baby was no more, the only thing Seol-hee needed to do was obediently listen to orders. In that moment, Seol-hee completely lost all hope in Ji-wook. When she got home, her mother-in-law told her straight to her face that even though she had married into the family, she had no right to decide anything, not even matters concerning herself. Seol-hee had heard words like this so often that she had become numb to them. She was determined to save her sister, and since her in-laws didn't respect her at all, she didn't need to consider their feelings anymore either. During the family dinner, Seol-hee declared right in front of her father-in-law that she wanted to divorce Ji-wook. This statement shocked the entire family. Her father-in-law was actually quite reasonable and asked for the reason. After finding out that his wife had blocked the bone marrow donation, he scolded her severely. After all, that was Seol-hee's only sister, and it was her own bone marrow. She had the right to decide. Since the father-in-law had spoken, no one in the house dared to stop her decision anymore. But this time, Seol-hee was very firm in her statement that she absolutely had to divorce Ji-wook. Back in their room, Ji-wook thought Seol-hee was demanding a divorce just to declare war on his mother, so he told her to go downstairs and apologize to her. This time, Seol-hee firmly resisted. She had endured enough. She could tolerate not being respected by her mother-in-law, but at the very least, her husband should have stood by her side. If Ji-wook hadn't said he loved her back then, she wouldn't have agreed to marry him. Hearing this, Ji-wook mocked Seol-hee again. He was certain she couldn't bear to give up her current life of luxury, and at the same time he declared that he would absolutely not divorce. But no matter what Ji-wook said, Seol-hee remained determined to get a divorce. She thought that without love, divorce would be easy. But who would have guessed that Ji-wook would refuse? Ji-wook is a lawyer preparing to enter politics, and a divorce scandal would ruin all his efforts. Seol-hee refused to back down. She declared war on him, saying that if he wouldn't agree to a divorce, the only option left was to take it to court. Ji-wook mocked her, saying that with his reputation, no one would dare take her case. Seol-hee wasn't scared at all. After speaking her mind, she packed her bags and left, completely escaping that house. She felt a huge sigh of relief. Afterwards, Seol-hee underwent the bone marrow donation surgery. Both sisters recovered well. Seol-hee also told her sister that she had decided to divorce, and that, from now on, she would never lower herself to beg anyone again. After leaving that house, Seol-hee felt reborn. She put on her favorite rock outfit and played music with her best friend. The dream of forming a band, which had been shelved for many years, finally had the chance to come true. On the other hand, whenever she has free time, Seol-hee goes to the courthouse to sit in on divorce cases to learn from them. Unexpectedly, right there in court, Seol-hee discovers that attorney Oh is the very same woman who was acting intimate with Ji-wook. Not long after, Ji-wook arrives as well. Seol-hee, terrified, hurriedly covers her face, but Ji-wook doesn't notice her at all. His entire focus is poured onto attorney Oh, wearing a look of gentleness and admiration on his face that Seol-hee has never seen before. It turns out he likes the type of woman who is dynamic and capable. Seol-hee feels a bit disappointed, but she quickly comes to terms with it. They are about to divorce anyway, so whoever he likes has nothing to do with her anymore. The scene shifts. Ji-wook returns home to find the divorce papers Seol-hee sent, and in a rage, he sweeps all the items off the table. He is truly furious because Seol-hee doesn't know her place. He has put in so much effort to enter politics, and a divorce scandal would cause everything to go down the drain. He absolutely hates Seol-hee. The next day, Ji-wook commissions attorney Oh to stop Seol-hee from divorcing by any means necessary, ideally making her never dare to mention the word divorce again. Seol-hee is unaware of Ji-wook's dark intentions because she is busy forming a rock band with her friends. Unexpectedly, someone invites them to perform. Everyone arrives excitedly, only to discover that they are performing for the elderly at a market. Everyone is very disappointed, feeling that performing here is beneath them. But Seol-hee comforts everyone, saying that as long as they get to sing, anywhere is fine. Encouraged by her, the ladies go up on stage to perform. The vibrant, trendy rock music is loved by the elderly audience. The atmosphere is lively, and they sing along enthusiastically. It has been a long time since Seol-hee was this happy. Who would have guessed? A reporter would snap photos of Seol-hee playing music. The next day, Ji-wook brings the photos to her house and throws them right in her face. Seol-hee picks the photos up from the ground and proudly compliments herself on how good she looks in them. Ji-wook didn't expect her to react like that, so he resorts to threatening Seol-hee. He says that as long as the two of them are not divorced yet, Seol-hee needs to watch her words and actions. Seol-hee can't be bothered to pay attention to him. She straps on her guitar and walks away. Before leaving, she doesn't forget to criticize his suit, calling it ugly. Treating Ji-wook like this for the first time, Seol-hee's mood is exceptionally good. Indeed, staying away from toxic men is the key to a long life. On the other hand, after deciding to divorce, Seol-hee wholeheartedly prepares for the related proceedings. Before the trial takes place, there will be a mediation session. If both sides reach an agreement during mediation, that is naturally best. Otherwise, the only option is to go to a public trial. During that time, Seol-hee focuses on studying negotiation skills, hoping to persuade the judge to support her during the mediation. The day of mediation arrives. Seol-hee wears a bright red suit, determined to gain the upper hand in the presence right from the start. She and Ji-wook arrive at the mediation venue at the same time. Seol-hee tries to persuade Ji-wook to agree to the divorce with a negotiating attitude. However, Ji-wook coldly refuses, asserting that the word divorce does not exist in the dictionary of his life. Seol-hee understands that this battle over the marriage has inevitably become a fierce war. Inside, the judge asks the reason why Seol-hee is determined to divorce. She says that because she married into a wealthy family, she feels like she doesn't fit in anywhere too high for some, too low for others, and has lived unhappily for many years. but the judge thinks this reason isn't convincing enough since the husband hasn't betrayed the family nor shown any violent tendencies. In front of the judge, Jae-wook immediately transforms into a polite man with a humble attitude, actively taking the blame. He claims that because his wife's health isn't good, the family didn't agree to let her donate bone marrow, which made her angry and led to her wanting a divorce. Seol-hee, standing beside him, despises his hypocrisy and exposes the fact that her in-laws view her merely as a tool for bearing children. Jae-wook skillfully rebuts, saying that every family has different problems and that these issues can all be gradually resolved. Jae-wook then continues to fabricate stories, claiming that their marital affection is very deep and that living apart is solely due to his busy work schedule. He insists he works hard just so his wife can enjoy a life of luxury, shopping for designer goods and frequenting high-end beauty salons. On this point, Seol-hee cannot refute him. She has indeed spent her husband's money. Finally, Seol-hee suffers a mental breakdown, crying and saying that no one gets married just to get divorced. If she hadn't suffered so much injustice, why would it come to this? She claims that if she continues this marriage, she will surely die of misery. Although everyone can feel her despair, the judge ultimately does not grant the divorce yet. Hearing this, Jae-wook thinks he has won, but unexpectedly, the judge continues to declare that due to the complexity of the case, Seol-hee needs to provide more evidence at the next trial. Jae-wook's expression changes instantly. As a professional lawyer, he actually lost to Seol-hee during the mediation. As for Seol-hee, this is a chance to turn the tables. She is determined to fight to the end. From then on, Seol-hee's life becomes busy and fulfilling. She studies law diligently to prepare for the next trial while also forming a band with her friends, immersing herself in the joy of music. In another turn of events, her old classmate Ran-hee contacts Seol-hee, inviting them to participate in a reality TV show, saying this program is very important to her. The director wants to film the story of her and her old classmates forming a band. Hearing that Seol-hee and the others practice regularly, he extended the invitation. Although Ran-hee is the main character, Seol-hee and the others will also have the chance to appear on screen, so Seol-hee happily agrees. A few friends then practice with Ran-hee and even invite Tae-hyun, the king of pop they know, to write a song for them. Doing what she loves with close friends, Seol-hee feels very happy. Every day is full of joy. However, Jae-wook suddenly appears, telling Seol-hee that he agrees to the divorce and will give her a large sum of money, but on the condition that she cuts ties with her friends, never appears in public playing music again, and, if possible, leaves Korea altogether. After speaking, he hands the divorce agreement to Seol-hee, telling her to think about it and sign. Seol-hee is utterly disgusted by Jae-wook's arrogance. She ignores him and continues practicing with her friends. Soon after, news that Seol-hee is about to appear on TV reaches Jae-wook's ears. He flies into a rage, calls Seol-hee to scold her, and uses money to threaten her, saying that if she insists, she won't get a single cent. But he doesn't know that what Seol-hee cares about isn't money, but respect. The two argue once again and then go their separate ways. Seol-hee has just hung up the phone when her former mother-in-law aggressively seeks her out. She is still as bitter as ever, disparaging Seol-hee's way of dressing as disgraceful, criticizing her for being unreasonable, and claiming she has miserably ruined her son. Then she loudly apologizes for the matter with her sister and orders Seol-hee to obediently return home. Seol-hee stands firm, stating clearly that she must get a divorce. Furious, her mother-in-law slaps Seol-hee across the face. Because the woman is an elder, Seol-hee silently endures it. Returning home with the divorce agreement in hand, Seol-hee begins to waver. She feels there is no point in continuing this tug of war. As long as she gets the divorce, everything else can be given up. After a moment of internal struggle, she signs it. Although she feels relieved, she regrets that she can no longer play music with her friends. Right at this moment, Hwaja calls to announce that the practice session is cancelled. Full of suspicion, Seol-hee rushes to find Ran-hee to clarify the situation. The moment they meet, Ran-hee splashes water right into her face. It is only then that Seol-hee learns Jae-wook sabotaged the show, and this program was Ran-hee's only hope to become famous again. Seol-hee is absolutely furious, feeling that she has been far too tolerant with Jae-wook. She grabs the signed divorce agreement, runs straight to Jae-wook's company and tears it to shreds right in front of him, determined not to coexist with him anymore. Leaving the company, Seol-hee knows the urgent matter now is to resolve the TV show issue, so she hurries to the broadcasting station, earnestly explaining the situation to the director, trying to win back the opportunity for Ran-hee. At first, the director firmly refuses. However, when he accidentally finds out that Seol-hee is a daughter-in-law of a tycoon family, his attitude changes instantly, and he immediately calls to let her know they can continue participating in the show. Seol-hee and her friends are overjoyed to hear this news. But the program makes one demand. The lead singer must be changed to Seol-hee. After all, compared to a washed-up star, the side stories about a wealthy family are clearly more attractive. Everyone is curious why a wealthy mistress wouldn't stay home and enjoy life, but wants to start a band instead, speculating that perhaps there is an unspeakable secret hidden behind it. Seol-hee didn't expect things to turn out this way. Ran-hee has a huge argument with her because of this. But that is the director's requirement, and no one can change it. In the following days, the sisters gather every day to practice with enthusiasm, while only Ran-hee sits aside, fuming. On the other hand, by chance, Ran-hee sees the divorce agreement in Seol-hee's bag, and a desire for revenge spawns in her heart. In front of the director, Ran-hee deliberately tells Seol-hee to contact her husband, adding that if the couple has a good relationship and participates in the program together, the viewership ratings will definitely be very high. Hearing this, the director's eyes light up. Seol-hee stammers. After all, divorce isn't exactly something glorious, and she hasn't told anyone yet. She didn't expect Ran-hee to expose this matter. Seeing this, Seol-hee has no choice but to frankly admit it, stating straight out that her marriage is not good, so she is divorcing. Her friends are incredibly shocked. No one can understand it. Marrying into a tycoon family is the dream of so many people. Even if there are some grievances, just enduring a little would let it pass. Seol-hee understands that emotional matters are too complicated to explain clearly. She can only say that she doesn't want to rely on anyone anymore and will live for herself in the future. Hwaja is very worried for Seol-hee after hearing this, asking what she will live on after the divorce. Seol-hee is very optimistic, saying that now that the band is formed, who knows, maybe one day they will become famous. If not, she can still work at a law firm, which was her old profession. Seeing her like this, everyone stops trying to persuade her. As friends, the only thing they can do is stay by her side to overcome the difficulties. In another turn of events, Hwaja, being the most loyal one, spends the whole night thinking of ways to help Seol-hee win the divorce lawsuit. Suddenly, she comes up with a bright idea, thinking that she just needs to get a hold of Ji-wook's weakness. For years, Ji-wook hasn't touched Seol-hee, so there must surely be another woman by his side. No sooner thought than done. The next day, Hwaja invites 2 more friends to follow Ji-wook. Sure enough, they discover Ji-wook and attorney Oh entering a hotel together. Hwaja immediately calls Seol-hee over. At first, Seol-hee is very opposed to using such underhanded tactics, but her friends all advise her that since she wants a divorce, she must be quick and decisive. The cameras are ready. They just need to snap the evidence and everything will be over. Finally, Seol-hee is persuaded. Everyone gets ready and rings the doorbell. Unexpectedly, the person who opens the door is none other than attorney Oh. Right after that, they see that there are other people in the room. It turns out everyone is having a meeting, and the situation immediately becomes incredibly awkward. Afterwards, naturally, Seol-hee gets scolded by Ji-wook again. Seol-hee knows she is in the wrong and doesn't want to explain much, simply saying she will see him in court. Returning home, Seol-hee contacts the maids and driver who used to work at Ji-wook's house, hoping they can testify for her, but everyone is very practical. No one dares to risk losing their job to help Seol-hee. A month passes just like that, and the time for court is approaching, yet Seol-hee doesn't hold a single trump card in her hand. Fortunately, at the critical moment, the driver agrees to appear in court to testify. In court, Seol-hee represents herself, seriously asking the driver several questions, such as the number of times Ji-wook came home and the daily relationship between the couple. The driver answers everything truthfully, but Seol-hee still underestimates Ji-wook's power. Attorney Oh, who is defending Ji-wook, continuously cross-examines the driver with several questions. First, she asks if Seol-hee ever gave him any material benefits. The driver hesitates a bit, then admits that in the past, he indeed received some. Seol-hee immediately rebuts, saying those were gifts to thank the driver in the past. Attorney Oh asks another question, inquiring if the driver risked being fired to testify for her only because Seol-hee promised compensation after the divorce. The driver admits again that Seol-hee said she would divide the assets after the divorce and would give him a sum of money then. Seol-hee is stunned and speechless. She completely didn't expect the driver to say such a thing. Attorney Oh takes advantage of the situation to slander Seol-hee in front of the judge, claiming that she married Ji-wook out of greed for his money, and now wants a divorce for money as well. In this lawsuit, Seol-hee has lost completely. After the trial, Hwaja is extremely angry. She can't help but scold Attorney Oh while also advising Seol-hee to find a professional lawyer. Otherwise, she won't be a match for Attorney Oh. Seol-hee follows her friend's advice and runs to many law firms the next day, but reality deals her a heavy blow. Not a single lawyer is willing to take her case. On one hand, she has no direct evidence proving there is a problem with Ji-wook's character. On the other hand, Ji-wook himself is the most authoritative lawyer in the country with deep roots in the legal world, so who would dare to easily confront him? Seol-hee is incredibly frustrated, feeling as if she has hit a dead end. On the other hand, Seol-hee's former mother-in-law is at a beauty salon hearing everyone gossip about her son and daughter-in-law's divorce. She cannot stand the whispering and gossiping, so she angrily gives her son an ultimatum, demanding that he quickly resolve this matter. Ji-wook comforts his mother, swearing that he will make Seol-hee pay the price. He plans to pretend to be the victim, using public opinion to ensure Seol-hee can never hold her head up again. Over here, Seol-hee knows she has very little chance of winning, but since this determines whether she can live freely for the rest of her life, she must try her best no matter what. But she still cannot find any lawyer willing to take the case. With no other choice, she can only continue studying law by herself. The frustration of the day has nowhere to go, so she can only relieve it by practicing with the band in the evening. Fortunately, there is good news. Finally, they have the chance to perform on stage. If this performance is successful, perhaps they will have a chance to debut. Moreover, Ran-hee has proactively apologized to Seol-hee, sincerely saying she wants to continue performing with them, even if it's just in a supporting role. Seol-hee, being generous by nature, naturally agrees immediately. On the other side, the king of pop, Tae-hyeon, also supports them wholeheartedly, always dedicated to guiding and practicing with them. However, an incident occurs when they get on stage. The band's 2 guitars suddenly lose sound. Everyone is encountering this situation for the first time and has absolutely no idea what to do. Right at this moment, Ran-hee suddenly steps out to the center of the stage, explaining to the audience that her sisters are inexperienced and that next, she will be performing a solo. Having said that, she chases Seol-hee and the others off the stage. Among the audience, someone recognizes Ran-hee, and the atmosphere is quickly stirred up. It is pitiable for Seol-hee and the others, who are so angry they could burst. After working so hard to prepare for so long, they still failed in the end. Backstage, Tae-hyeon, not knowing what happened, also angrily scolds everyone, asking why they didn't check the equipment before going on stage. Seol-hee feels something is off. How could two guitars break simultaneously? Could it be that someone pulled a dirty trick behind the scenes? Meanwhile, after Ran-hee finishes singing, she drags Tae-hyeon off to celebrate. Unexpectedly, her manager lets it slip. Everyone realizes that it was actually Ran-hee who pulled the stunt. She did it to eliminate Seol-hee and the others, so that she could become famous again on her own. Tae-hyeon realizes he wrongly blamed Seol-hee and hurriedly texts her to apologize. After this incident, Seol-hee is depressed for a while, but she quickly regains her spirit. This little setback cannot defeat her. She resolves to perform really well at the next show. But right now, she has to settle the divorce first. Seol-hee then runs to Jiwook's company building and sneaks into the security room. She uses her beauty to charm the security guard, making him do exactly as she says and letting her watch the company's surveillance footage. As a result, when she finishes watching and walks out, she runs right into Jiwook. Seeing this, Jiwook warns her that if she continues to cause trouble, she shouldn't regret it later. Seol-hee has heard these words so often she's become numb to them, so she basically pays him no mind. At this moment, Tae-hyeon also arrives. He bought a guitar intending to gift it to Seol-hee, only to see her struggling with a man. He doesn't know Jiwook and thinks he is a thug, so he gives Jiwook a piece of his mind. Seol-hee can't be bothered to explain, so she leads Tae-hyeon away. The next day, Jiwook asks Attorney Oh if she knows about this. He doesn't notice the tense look on Attorney Oh's face. It turns out, Tae-hyeon is actually Attorney Oh's ex-husband. The world is truly small. Attorney Oh is helping her boss handle his divorce, while her boss's soon-to-be ex-wife has an ambiguous relationship with her own ex-husband. They both think that Seol-hee has found a new backer, which is why she is so confident. Therefore, Attorney Oh goes to find Tae-hyeon and warns him not to see Seol-hee anymore. Unfortunately, when they divorced, the couple had a huge fight, so Tae-hyeon ignored her demand. On another note, on her way home, Seol-hee suddenly feels like someone is following her. At first, she thinks she has encountered a pervert, but unexpectedly, the stranger says he has evidence against Jiwook in his hands. The man, with a face full of confidence, says the evidence he possesses can not only help Seol-hee win the lawsuit, but is also strong enough to take down Jiwook, ensuring he can never rise again. The man's face is filled with hatred as he goes on and on about how Jiwook caused him to go bankrupt and destroyed his family. Now, he is determined to make Jiwook taste the bitterness of ruin and shame. However, Seol-hee is worried and doesn't dare to accept this evidence casually. What if this is another trap set by Jiwook? Just like last time with the driver, if there is a betrayal at the critical moment, she won't have any chances left. Her friends all think she is being too cautious and advise her to take the evidence first, no matter what. Who knows, maybe she can use it to bring Jiwook down. Seol-hee is filled with doubt and doesn't know what to do. With no other option, she decides to go find the elderly lawyer that Tae-hyeon introduced. Seol-hee tells the elderly lawyer about the evidence. Surprisingly, the lawyer praises her for doing the right thing. It turns out this evidence was obtained illegally and has a very high probability of being forged. Moreover, that man has a deep grudge against Jiwook. If used rashly, Jiwook's lawyers would likely turn it around and attack her. Hearing this, Seol-hee feels terrified. Luckily, she didn't accept that evidence. Afterwards, the man contacts Seol-hee again. Seol-hee firmly refuses his evidence. Since Seol-hee doesn't want it, he plans to make the evidence public himself. The man's fierce expression makes Seol-hee worry about Jiwook's safety. In the end, she can't help herself and runs to Jiwook's company, wanting to warn him to be careful about this matter. But just as she arrives at the company building, Seol-hee runs into her former mother-in-law. Like a mouse meeting a cat, her instinct is to hide, but she is still spotted by her. Seol-hee hurriedly explains that she came because she was worried about Jiwook. However, these words make her hate Seol-hee even more. Before, demanding a divorce made Jiwook miserable enough. Now she is pretending to care it is clearly just an act. Seol-hee regrets it deeply, feeling she was just being too soft-hearted for no reason, only to get scolded out of nowhere. She intends to turn and leave, but the fierce image of that man flashes in her mind. Seol-hee thinks it over carefully, and feels she should talk to Jiwook directly, no matter what. That way, she won't have a guilty conscience. She still tells Jiwook about the evidence. Unfortunately, Jiwook is just as bitter as his mother and looks down on Seol-hee's good intentions. He arrogantly says that as a lawyer, he has many enemies in his lifetime. If he were afraid of such small things, he couldn't do this job. His rude attitude makes Seol-hee angry. She silently swears she will never interfere in other people's business again. This family truly deserves to be punished. Unexpectedly, the next day at work, Jiwook receives a CD containing intimate images of him and Attorney Oh. He hurriedly summons Attorney Oh. Two top lawyers in the industry are now panicked. They remember the evidence Seol-hee mentioned yesterday and guess that it might be this very video. If Seol-hee releases this video in court, they are both done for. As for Seol-hee, thanks to the elderly lawyer's help, things have progressed significantly. The lawyer investigates and finds out that assets under Ji-wook's name are worth at least 100 billion won. Before, he wanted to use 5 billion to kick Seol-hee out of Korea. That amount is nothing compared to his total assets. Additionally, Ji-wook has a villa in the suburbs. Seol-hee knew absolutely nothing about this. The elderly lawyer tells her these are all marital assets. If she wins the lawsuit, Seol-hee will become truly wealthy. However, Seol-hee isn't interested in money. She only hopes for a smooth divorce. Just then, Ji-wook proactively contacts Seol-hee. He is uneasy and wants to probe whether Seol-hee actually has the evidence in hand. Ji-wook asks how she knows that man, then claims the man is dangerous, reminding Seol-hee not to interact with him much. At this point, Seol-hee feels only disgust for Ji-wook. Harsh words slip out of her mouth. After a verbal spar, Ji-wook is certain that Seol-hee doesn't have that evidence for the time being, but he and Attorney Oh must act quickly, otherwise this time bomb could explode at any moment. Over here, Seol-hee pulls herself together and goes to the suburban villa to look for clues. Tae-hyun picks her up early in the morning. Unexpectedly, they actually discover Ji-wook's secret. Residents living near the villa can verify that every month Ji-wook brings a woman here to stay, living like husband and wife. Coincidentally, today is the day they visit, so Seol-hee and Tae-hyun hide in the car and wait. Not long after, Ji-wook indeed appears, and the person getting out of the car with him is Attorney Oh. Seeing this scene, Seol-hee is not surprised at all, but she doesn't notice that Tae-hyun's face next to her has suddenly turned very grim. On the other side, Ji-wook and Attorney Oh hear from neighbors that someone came to investigate them. Attorney Oh hurriedly shows photos of Seol-hee and Tae-hyun for the neighbors to identify, finally confirming that Seol-hee has found the villa. Afterwards, Attorney Oh finds Tae-hyun, bluntly clarifying her relationship with Ji-wook, and uses child custody to threaten him, demanding that Tae-hyun stay away from Seol-hee and not interfere in this matter. On the other hand, Seol-hee realizes that Ji-wook might have betrayed her long before the divorce, and her mood is terrible. What makes her even angrier is that Ji-wook clearly has someone new, yet he won't let her go, preferring a lawsuit over signing the divorce papers. At this moment, Seol-hee's friends all advise her to go find that man and retrieve the evidence. If that is truly Ji-wook's weakness, who knows? Maybe the divorce can go smoothly. After thinking it over, Seol-hee decides to listen to her heart and gives that man a call. However, the call doesn't go through. It turns out Ji-wook was one step ahead. He arranged for the man to meet at a cafe and asked him point blank how much money it would take for him to destroy the evidence. The man couldn't care less about compensation. If Ji-wook truly wants to make amends, he must hold a press conference and apologize to him in front of the entire nation. For Ji-wook, apologizing is out of the question, but right now, he can only temporarily appease the man, asking for a few days' grace by claiming he needs to go back and discuss it with the shareholders. A few days later, Ji-wook arranges to meet the man again. This time, believing he is thoroughly prepared, he positions many plainclothes police officers at the cafe entrance. The moment the man appears, they are to arrest him immediately. But he was too overconfident. The man had anticipated his plan and didn't show up at all. It isn't until Ji-wook goes to the restroom that the man suddenly appears and furiously beats him up. By the time Ji-wook regains his composure, the man has vanished without a trace. Before long, the day of the second trial arrives, but Ji-wook has not yet appeared. Time ticks by, and at the very last second, Ji-wook finally arrives at the court. The elderly lawyer hasn't arrived yet, so Seol-hee has no other choice but to represent herself again, presenting to the judge the illicit relationship between Ji-wook and Attorney Oh. However, the evidence Seol-hee presents fails completely to prove the relationship between the two. Attorney Oh rebuts that staying at the same hotel could be for work, and going to the countryside villa was merely for a meal. No matter what Seol-hee says, Attorney Oh refutes every single point. Even worse, Attorney Oh has invited Ji-wook's mother to testify as a witness. She tearfully recounts how well she treated Seol-hee, regarding her as a biological daughter, while also apologizing to Seol-hee and promising to treat her better in the future. Hearing this, Seol-hee is utterly shocked. This family's skin is truly thicker than a fortress wall. Seeing the judge's expression shift repeatedly, Seol-hee feels as if a bucket of ice water has been poured over her. This family's ability to turn black into white is truly superior. She just wants a divorce. Why is it so difficult? Fortunately, at that critical moment, hanging by a thread, the elderly lawyer successfully obtained that crucial evidence for her. It turns out that not long before, the man had lost his mind and decided to put his life on the line against Ji-wook, driving a large truck straight at him. As a result, Ji-wook luckily escaped death, while the man ended up turning himself into the police station. The elderly lawyer deduced that the evidence in the man's possession was very likely real, so he rushed to the police station, trying to secure that evidence for Seol-hee. Seeing the elderly lawyer arrive, Seol-hee asks to pause the trial for a moment. She needs to verify the evidence. Ji-wook and Attorney Oh see that CD, and their faces instantly turn pale. Ji-wook's subordinate then hurriedly runs over to report that Seol-hee has submitted video evidence to the judge and has requested a screening room. Hearing this news, Ji-wook and Attorney Oh are thrown into immediate turmoil. Once the video is made public, both will face total ruin and disgrace. Ji-wook rushes to stop Seol-hee, his face full of rage, gritting his teeth as he warns Seol-hee that forging evidence is a violation of the law. But by now, Seol-hee is no longer afraid. She is certain that whether the evidence is usable or not will become clear after it is screened. Seeing that threats are ineffective, Ji-wook has to back down, telling Seol-hee to just name her demands, and whatever it is, he will agree. However, the more Ji-wook tries to stop her, the more curious Seo-hee becomes. She wants to know what secret is hidden in the video that makes the arrogant lawyer so terrified. She determinedly steps into the screening room. Ji-wook is as furious as a mad lion, screaming in despair that it is all over. Shortly after, it is time for the trial to resume. Seo-hee hands the video to the prosecutor, solemnly declaring that this is the evidence that will determine the direction of the divorce case. Attorney Oh and Ji-wook both look visibly guilty. Attorney Oh makes a last-ditch effort to struggle, standing up to tell the prosecutor that this evidence hadn't been submitted beforehand, and that presenting it now violates regulations, but she is immediately overruled by the judge. Everyone present stares tensely at the large screen, wondering if Seo-hee can win the lawsuit thanks to this video. The content of the video astonishes everyone. It replays scenes of Seo-hee and Ji-wook's wedding, as well as her daily life after becoming pregnant. In the video, Ji-wook is handsome and gentle, completely different from how he is now. Watching the happy images from the past, Seo-hee cannot help but shed tears. The love of the past and the current trial create a stark contrast. Ji-wook is also very surprised. He didn't expect that Seo-hee wouldn't make that crucial video public. Attorney Oh immediately states that this video is irrelevant to the case. The judge agrees. Seo-hee understands that direct evidence is needed in court to win the lawsuit. She stands up to make her final statement. She brings up the fact that Ji-wook and her mother-in-law accused her of using the pregnancy to trick him into marriage, but the video proves that the marriage was voluntary on both sides. Even if Ji-wook fell out of love later on, he should have said so directly, instead of holding on to her and refusing to let go. Furthermore, her mother-in-law has always treated her poorly. She persisted with the divorce lawsuit solely to protect her legal rights, hoping Ji-wook could offer a direct apology. Finally, Seo-hee tells the judge that she has evidence to take down Ji-wook, but she doesn't want to use such underhanded tactics. She only wants a divorce so she can live for herself from now on. These words make Ji-wook feel very ashamed but also deeply moved. It seems he never truly understood this ex-wife of his. Clearly she hated him so much before, yet at the critical moment she gave up the opportunity to ruin his reputation in life. The judge declares a recess, stating that the trial verdict will be announced in 1 week. Her friends think Seo-hee is too foolish, believing that using tears to gain sympathy in court serves no purpose. However, Seo-hee feels it's okay. She has done her best. This experience has helped her find herself again, and she will no longer let others interfere with her free life. On the other hand, Attorney Oh secretly rejoices that the video wasn't released, thinking Seo-hee was just bluffing and didn't have the evidence. But Ji-wook assures her that Seo-hee really does have the video in hand. She simply spared them. Having gone through this divorce storm, Seo-hee feels as if she has been reborn. Meanwhile, Ji-wook begins to question his own life. Seo-hee's words keep echoing in his ears, leaving him with mixed feelings. Not long after, the court announces the result. The two are granted a divorce, and Seo-hee leaves empty-handed. Attorney Oh immediately goes to find Ji-wook to claim credit, saying that everything has been resolved satisfactorily and they can now be together openly. But Ji-wook reacts very calmly. However, Seo-hee's friends are very indignant about this result, feeling that since Seo-hee didn't receive a single cent, her future life will be very difficult. But Seo-hee is very satisfied with the outcome. She believes that money is just a material possession. Now that she is free, she can wholeheartedly play music with her friends. Sometime later, a supermarket invites its band to perform. Everyone sings enthusiastically on stage, but because they aren't famous yet, the audience quickly loses interest. The owner angrily declares that he won't work with them again. This makes everyone very upset. Seo-hee uses her ability to comfort others, and everyone quickly regains their spirits, dancing in the elevator and forgetting all the unpleasantness. One day, Seo-hee suddenly receives a phone call from Ji-wook. Her ex-husband voluntarily offers to give her a sum of money as compensation. Seo-hee refused flatly. She didn't want any involvement with Ji-wook anymore, and she especially didn't want to get involved with his money. Now that they are divorced, she hopes never to see him again. As a result, when she gets home, reality deals her a blow. Previously, a wealthy wife who never had to worry about money, she now has to face all kinds of daily expenses, and her savings are completely gone. The urgent matter is to find a job. Unfortunately, she has been out of the workforce for too long and lacks relevant experience, making it difficult to find an ideal job. At this moment, she suddenly remembers the elderly lawyer. Seo-hee brings a cake to the law firm. Before she can even speak, the elderly lawyer directly offers her a position as a representative manager. But since the law firm's business isn't doing well, he can only arrange for her to work part-time. Since Seo-hee hasn't found another job in the short term and needs money to survive, she has no choice but to work for the elderly lawyer. To find clients for the law firm, Seo-hee doesn't mind the hardship and goes to the police station to look for opportunities. Seeing two people arguing, she immediately approaches them to hand over a business card, enthusiastically saying that if they need a lawyer, they should seek her out. Unfortunately, the scene is witnessed by Ji-wook. After the divorce, Ji-wook is no longer as arrogant as before. He sincerely tells Seo-hee that if she encounters any difficulties, she should just tell him. Seo-hee couldn't care less about his concern, stating straight out that after the divorce, she is living very happily. On the other hand, now that Ji-wook is single, his mother worries about his marriage every day. She gently reminds him that this time, he must choose a partner wisely. Divorced women with children, like Attorney Oh, are not worthy of their wealthy family status. Ji-wook tells his mother not to worry, making it clear that he has no intention of remarrying. These words are accidentally overheard by Attorney Oh. She feels so aggrieved that she bursts into tears. Attorney Oh then proactively suggests taking Jae-wook to meet her son, using the opportunity to make their relationship public. Jae-wook gives a vague answer, saying he will think about it. Ever since the divorce lawsuit with Seol-hee, Ji-wook has become cold towards Attorney Oh. Attorney Oh also cannot guess what Ji-wook is thinking at all. In another turn of events, Seol-hee and her best friend's impromptu dance in the elevator unexpectedly goes viral, racking up hundreds of thousands of views. But the comments section is full of mockery, saying, "Look at a group of old ladies forming a band." Hwaja's son gets teased by friends at school because of this. The boy comes home and scolds his mother, telling her to stop playing music because it's so embarrassing. This makes everyone very sad. They even argue and blame each other, and finally, they decide to give up. Seol-hee is very worried. She goes to find Taehyun and asks him to write a song for the band. Since they are being mocked by netizens, she wants to use a song to prove that old ladies also have talent. Taehyun greatly admires Seol-hee's positive attitude, so he agrees immediately and doesn't even charge a fee. The two are chatting happily when Taehyun suddenly receives a phone call from his son. The boy is sobbing on the phone. It turns out that today the kindergarten has a parent-child activity. Other kids have their mothers with them, but he is the only one going alone. Hearing this, Taehyun is heartbroken and immediately invites Seol-hee to join his son's activity. Upon arrival, Seol-hee proactively offers a meeting gift to the boy, but she is rejected. She doesn't take it to heart. She picks up her guitar and sings. Her gentle voice quickly conquers the boy. The father and son listen quietly. At this moment, Attorney Oh rushes in and sees this heartwarming scene. It looks as if they are a real family. Attorney Oh can't help but ask Seol-hee if she is approaching her son to seek revenge. Seol-hee finds this ridiculous. She doesn't have the free time to go around taking revenge on anyone. However, Attorney Oh is blinded by anger and provocatively says that she is about to marry Jae-wook, and when that happens, she will take her son to live with them. Hearing this, Seol-hee just scoffs in contempt. In another turn of events before long, Taehyun finishes the song. Seol-hee gathers the band members to record it and posts the video online. As expected, the video goes viral once again. Unlike before, this time the internet is full of praise. Everyone cheers with joy, feeling that their dream is getting closer. At this crucial moment, Seol-hee suddenly feels unwell and faints while walking down the street. Taehyun is the first to receive the news and rushes to the hospital. Learning that Seol-hee fainted due to prolonged overwork combined with malnutrition, Taehyun feels a mix of anger and heartache, scolding her that no matter how hard she works, she must pay attention to her health. On the other hand, Ji-wook sits alone in his office until late at night. Suddenly, he really wants to know what Seol-hee is doing, so he makes a phone call. Finding out Seol-hee is at the hospital, he immediately heads there as well. In the hospital, Seol-hee is sleeping soundly. Her peaceful expression makes Ji-wook feel a pang of heartache. Seol-hee is usually full of energy, but now she lies motionless on the hospital bed. This scene makes Ji-wook's emotions become complicated. Right at this moment, Taehyun returns from outside and sees the uninvited guest, Ji-wook, feeling very annoyed. Taehyun doesn't hold back and warns Ji-wook that he had best stay away from Seol-hee. After all, she has just escaped the shadow of her ex-husband's family and is trying to start a new life, so she doesn't want to be disturbed anymore. How could Ji-wook stand hearing these words? He immediately mocks Taehyun, implying that he must have already fallen in love with Seol-hee. Taehyun ignores him and walks straight back to the hospital room. He doesn't hide it from Seol-hee either, telling her directly that Ji-wook had come. Seol-hee is also very surprised to hear this. Seeing this, Taehyun teases her, asking if perhaps Ji-wook still has lingering feelings for her. Seol-hee naturally doesn't believe it. She knows full well that Ji-wook has no feelings for her. Since they are divorced, they should just live their own lives well. Over here, Jae-wook returns home to find Attorney Oh waiting for him. For some reason, for the first time in his life, he lies to Attorney Oh. Attorney Oh notices that Ji-wook has been distracted lately, so to improve their relationship she invites Ji-wook on a relaxing trip. But in return, she still gets a perfunctory answer from Ji-wook. Attorney Oh is filled with resentment but doesn't dare to show it too clearly. After all, she has not yet officially become the woman by Ji-wook's side. On the other hand, Seol-hee's band is becoming increasingly famous, even receiving an invitation from a TV station. Seol-hee then contacts Taehyun again, hoping he can help compose a song specifically for the band so they can shine on stage. Taehyun seems to have become the exclusive composer for Seol-hee's band. Before Seol-hee can even ask, he is already prepared. Seol-hee's life is now very busy and fulfilling. Every night after finishing practice, early the next morning, she goes to the law office to work. Today, the law firm receives a case. A pedestrian had their bags snatched by a passing motorcycle, causing the person to be injured. Later, a young man named Lee was identified as the culprit, but the elderly lawyer feels something is fishy. The real culprit must be Lee's friend. They bullied Lee because he had no parents, making him the scapegoat. Learning this, Seol-hee goes out alone to find Lee's friend, following him all day but still unable to find an opportunity to strike up a conversation. Finally, in the afternoon, the young man gets surrounded and beaten by a group of people. How could Seol-hee miss this opportunity? Thanks to her martial arts skills, she quickly fights off the thugs. To repay Seol-hee, the young man agrees to testify for Lee. On the day the pedestrian's bag was snatched, Lee was actually at the internet cafe with his friend the entire time, and never went out. Upon hearing the recording and seeing the documents Seol-hee had arranged on the table, the elderly lawyer smiled with satisfaction. Not long after, Seol-hee receives a new case. A market in the city center has been targeted by the boss of the muting group, who plans to demolish it to build a large shopping mall. This was originally a good thing, but the capitalist didn't follow standard practices. He tricked the small merchants in the market into signing contracts, making only verbal promises of compensation, but the contracts themselves did not clearly state these terms. Most of the merchants were elderly people who didn't understand the tricks of the capitalist, so seeing others sign, they followed suit one after another. The result is that now the muting group has gone back on its word, demanding the merchants move out without any compensation at all. It is only now that the merchants realize they have been duped, but the contracts were signed clearly, and even lawyers find it to be a tough spot. Seol-hee intends to go investigate personally, but she is misunderstood by the elderly folks as someone sent by the capitalists, so they splash a bucket of dirty water all over her. It takes Seol-hee a lot of effort to explain the situation clearly. The merchants then plan to protest. Hearing this, Seol-hee decides to do something for them. She brings her band to the market to sing, boosting everyone's morale. They sing passionately, firing up the spirits of everyone present. Suddenly, a group of people arrives. Without saying a word, they start beating the merchants, not sparing even the elderly. Seol-hee is so shocked that she is speechless. She didn't expect these people to disregard the law, attacking innocent citizens in broad daylight. At this moment, she clenches her fists and joins the fight. As a result, she gets beaten black and blue. But she swears in her heart that she will definitely demand justice for the merchants. Seol-hee then begins mobilizing the merchants to sign a petition, preparing to sue the muting group in court. At the same time, the boss of the muting group fears the matter will blow up, so he sends someone to negotiate a settlement. Unexpectedly, the person who arrives is none other than Ji-wook. It turns out the boss of the muting group is his maternal uncle. The moment Seol-hee and Ji-wook lock eyes, both are incredibly astonished, unable to help but lament this strange and teasing fate. Ji-wook offers compensation terms first, but the amount is too meager. Seol-hee naturally refuses firmly. She points out that the contracts the merchants signed have problems, but Ji-wook insists that everything was done in accordance with national law. The two sides argue, with neither giving an inch. The first negotiation fails. From then on, Seol-hee is always restless and anxious. Seeing this, the elderly lawyer comforts her, saying that no matter who the opponent is, she shouldn't let it affect her and should focus on the case itself. On Ji-wook's side, they are equally furious. Attorney Oh becomes even more convinced that Seol-hee is intentionally clinging to Ji-wook, certain that she approached him with a premeditated purpose. The next day, Ji-wook proactively contacts Seol-hee, trying to persuade her to drop the lawsuit, confidently stating that no one in Korea has ever won a lawsuit against him, and furthermore, this case is already very difficult to win. But the arrogant Ji-wook underestimated Seol-hee's sense of justice. Those savings are what those merchants worked hard their entire lives to get. Seol-hee is determined to pursue this to the end. Finally, Seol-hee mentions the fact that when she was sick and hospitalized earlier, Ji-wook came to visit her. She advises Ji-wook that if he still has a shred of guilt toward her, he shouldn't get involved in this lawsuit. Ji-wook helplessly feels that this woman is truly stubborn. But in the end, Ji-wook still goes to his uncle and withdraws from the case. Ji-wook's mother accidentally finds out about this matter and goes straight to his office. Ji-wook isn't there, so Attorney Oh seizes the opportunity to tell Ji-wook's mother that Seol-hee is acting as the lawyer for the opposing side, adding fuel to the fire by implying that Seol-hee isn't simple and likely has ulterior motives regarding Ji-wook. Ji-wook's mother grinds her teeth in anger, wishing she could send Seol-hee far away out of sight. As for Seol-hee, in order to complete her task, she goes to the market every day, diligently learning about the situation of each merchant household. By evening, she joins her teammates to practice for the show. After all, this is the band's first debut song, so they must give it their all. After finishing the song, Tae-hyeon gives it to them, letting them write the lyrics themselves. Everything seems to be on the right track. However, an unexpected incident occurs. Ah-ryum, their teammate, is poached by another entertainment company with more potential. Although Ah-ryum feels reluctant, she doesn't want to miss this rare opportunity. When the teammates find out, their mood plummets instantly. Missing one person, the band's perfection is broken. Everyone blames Ah-ryum, saying they worked so hard to get to this step, so how could she betray everyone? At the critical moment, Seol-hee steps up to persuade everyone to respect and bless Ah-ryum's choice, saying everyone has the right to pursue better development and that aiming for better things is normal. They can recruit another guitarist. The ideal is beautiful, but reality is harsh. Although many people come for interviews, no one fits the bill. They are all unskilled. They struggle to find a young girl with talent, but who would have guessed that, despite her young age, her attitude is huge. Her playing style deviates a bit from the theme song. Seol-hee hopes she can adjust it slightly, but the girl pays absolutely no attention and keeps playing her own way. As the performance day draws closer, the girl refuses to cooperate and even threatens everyone that if they keep nagging, she will quit. This makes everyone very angry. Finally, Seol-hee gets tough for once and directly fires the girl. Just when everyone is at their wits' end, Ah-ryum suddenly returns. It turns out that after joining the new band, she wasn't accustomed to many things and still felt that being with this group of older sisters was more fun. Everyone then goes on stage together and receives enthusiastic cheers from the audience. Seol-hee is singing passionately when she suddenly sees her former mother-in-law standing in the crowd, looking fierce as if she wants to eat her alive. Seol-hee instinctively takes her hands off the keyboard, fear rising in her heart. But just a few seconds later, Seol-hee regains her composure. she doesn't need to fear anyone anymore. She directly ignores her former mother-in-law and continues to focus on completing her performance. After the performance, her former mother-in-law aggressively seeks out Seol-hee. As soon as she arrives, she demands that Seol-hee drop the market lawsuit, fiercely threatening Seol-hee to stop immediately, or she will consider Seol-hee an enemy. Seol-hee is no longer a soft persimmon for people to squeeze. She calmly clarifies that she has no intention of confronting anyone. She only wants to find the truth. Her former mother-in-law is so angry that she almost strikes Seol-hee again, finally leaving in a rage after dropping a harsh remark. On the other hand, the merchants in the market have placed all their hope in Seol-hee, which makes Seol-hee feel a heavy responsibility to give it her all. Even if she receives news in the middle of the night, she won't hesitate to go immediately. At this time, a young girl named Yoonji proactively contacts Seol-hee, intending to tell her what she knows. However, the two run into some thugs at the market. Seol-hee doesn't hesitate to shield Yoonji, rushing forward. Luckily, Taehyun arrives in time, and the two join forces to beat the thugs until they run away. But neither of them notices that Yoonji has quietly left the scene. Seol-hee later calls Yoonji, but her phone is turned off. Her intuition tells her that Yoonji is a key figure in this case, so early the next morning, she goes to the market to wait. However, Yoonji's father vehemently opposes discussing this case and refuses to answer any of Seol-hee's questions. His unusual attitude makes Seol-hee feel even more certain that he must know some unspeakable secrets. On the other hand, the deeper Seol-hee investigates, the more anxious Jae-wook's uncle becomes. Capitalists like them more or less have some shady dealings. If they are investigated, the consequences would be unpredictable. The uncle hurriedly discusses countermeasures with Jae-wook's mother. The urgent matter now is to resolve this quickly. The mother then seeks out Jae-wook, telling him about the severity of the situation. She also has a stake in the corporation. If something happens to her brother, the whole family will be seriously affected. Jae-wook also gets a headache from this matter. He knows full well that Seol-hee won't give up easily, and dealing with his mother's side is also difficult. His procrastinating attitude makes his mother extremely dissatisfied. To be safe, his mother contacts Attorney Oh behind his back and gives her full authority to handle this matter. She knows Attorney Oh is very ambitious and wants to marry her son, so she uses this as bait, promising that as long as she can resolve this matter, everything else is negotiable. Attorney Oh indeed takes the bait. Without discussing it with Jae-wook, she goes to the market on her own accord. She raises the compensation to 15 million won, trying to settle with everyone. Seeing this, the merchants waver. After all, this is a large sum of money. Hearing the news, Seol-hee rushes to reassure everyone, reminding them not to fall into the trap, pointing out that this money is just a tactic by the capitalists to silence them. They must unite and find evidence of the corporation's crimes to keep the market and avoid being cheated by the developer. The merchants fall into a dilemma. Seeing this, Attorney Oh drops a bombshell. The merchants have already signed the consent forms, so if they sue in court, they will not only be evicted but might end up not receiving a single cent. Hearing this, the merchants feel like the sky is falling, and ask Seol-hee how much benefit she can help them gain. This question is too sudden, and Seol-hee cannot answer immediately. Attorney Oh seizes the opportunity to add fuel to the fire, implying that Seol-hee took this case not to help everyone but to take revenge on Jae-wook. These words anger the merchants, and they scold Seol-hee severely. The fact that Seol-hee is divorced is true, so no matter how she explains, she cannot change the merchants' minds. Her efforts for so long have gone down the drain. On the other hand, Jae-wook is furious when he learns of Attorney Oh's actions. He himself doesn't realize that he has subconsciously become biased towards Seol-hee. He makes many calls to Seol-hee, but no one answers. Finally, he has no choice but to go find her personally and apologize for Attorney Oh's behavior. Seol-hee remarks sarcastically that the sun must have risen in the west since she is actually hearing an apology from Jae-wook's mouth. However, Seol-hee does not accept the apology, saying that both sides should just rely on their abilities to win the lawsuit. Jae-wook originally intended to reconcile, but for the sake of family interests, if Seol-hee insists on suing, he can only follow through to the end. Seol-hee doesn't care about his attitude, and still goes to the market early the next day. But the moment the merchants see her, they get angry and refuse to believe her, no matter what she says. Seol-hee leaves in a daze. Unexpectedly, things take a turn. Yoonji, the girl who mysteriously disappeared last time, contacts Seol-hee again. It turns out that to get money for his daughter's surgery, Yoonji's father accepted 50 million won from the corporation, which is why he betrayed everyone and lured the merchants into signing the consent forms. This is incredibly important evidence. If Yoonji's father could testify in court personally, the effect would be even better. Unfortunately, the man is afraid of retaliation from the corporation, so he refuses Seol-hee. Not long after, Jae-wook and Attorney Oh bring an agreement to the market, claiming that as long as the merchants sign the reconciliation paper, they will receive more than 10 million won in compensation. Everyone is quite satisfied with this outcome. Right at this moment, Seol-hee rushes in and gives Jae-wook a piece of her mind. Seol-hee firmly declares war on Jae-wook. She is determined to pursue this lawsuit to the end and expose the corporation's crimes. However, she still underestimates the treachery of people. Jae-wook's uncle learns that Yoonji revealed their secret, so he sends someone to kidnap the girl and fiercely threatens the father and daughter, warning that if they dare to speak nonsense again, he won't be so forgiving next time. Surprisingly, after this incident, Yoonji's father suddenly has a change of heart. He proactively seeks out Seol-hee and tells her everything. But even so, he still dares not testify in court due to fear for his and his daughter's safety. In the following days, Seol-hee gathers more and more evidence. She even goes to her younger sister, who is interning at the corporation, asking for her help to collect information within the company. On the other hand, Seol-hee's determined attitude angers Ji-wook's entire family, especially her former mother-in-law. She detests Seol-hee deeply but is also very wary, fearing that she might actually uncover something that would affect the family's reputation. Over here, Ji-wook also realizes he can no longer sit still. Before long, Seol-hee receives news that Yoonji's father has been arrested by the police, charged with using his daughter's illness as an excuse to defraud the corporation of 50 million won. Yoonji's father cries out that he is innocent, insisting that this is a charge the corporation pinned on him. But the evidence of the transfer money in, money out is all complete, so even a lawyer can't do anything. A conviction seems certain. Seol-hee knows full well that this must be Ji-wook's doing. To achieve his goal, this man will stop at nothing. Seol-hee plans to find Ji-wook to talk things out, but unexpectedly, she gets brainwashed by him. Ji-wook says that if it weren't for her insisting on suing, he wouldn't have done this. Yoonji's father is entirely implicated because of her, and the more she wants to help people, the more miserably those people will suffer. That is the power of capital. Finally, Ji-wook advises her to drop the lawsuit as soon as possible so he can return everything to the way it was. Throughout the journey so far, no matter what difficulties she encountered, Seol-hee has never been afraid. But now, someone is in jail because of her, which causes the faith Seol-hee has always held onto to suddenly collapse. She begins to doubt if her persistence still holds any meaning. After thinking it over carefully all night, Seol-hee finds Ji-wook, demanding that he release Yoonji's father, and in return, she will agree to drop the lawsuit. Afterwards, Yoonji's father is released. He tells the truth to all the merchants. Everyone feels guilty and takes turns apologizing to Seol-hee. Yoonji's father even takes the lead in assuring her that he will definitely appear in court to testify, hoping she will continue to defend everyone. Seeing the scene before her eyes, Seol-hee is moved to tears. Touched as she is, Seol-hee dares not violate the agreement with Ji-wook, fearing that what happened to Yoonji's father might happen again. At the same time, Attorney Oh and Ji-wook both think Seol-hee has surrendered. Attorney Oh immediately flashes a triumphant smile. Who would have guessed? Ji-wook suddenly receives a call from his mother, learning that the merchants have not given up on suing the corporation, and Yoonji's father is even more determined to testify in court. Attorney Oh can't help but mock Ji-wook for being used by Seol-hee. Furious, Ji-wook calls to question Seol-hee on why she went back on her word. Seol-hee feels very unjustly accused. She really did withdraw, but the merchants insist on suing and she doesn't know what to do. And the elderly lawyer is the one who took over Seol-hee's job. But the greatest difficulty right now is the lack of evidence. Relying solely on Yoonji's father's testimony makes it difficult to overthrow the corporation. Right at this moment, Ji-wook's uncle is betrayed by a subordinate. The CD held by the subordinate contains recorded evidence of his crimes and threatening the small merchants. Once this video is made public, the corporation will surely collapse. The subordinate plans to use this to extort a large sum of money. Jin-wook's uncle is terrified and hurriedly seeks out his sister to discuss the matter, agreeing that Jin-wook absolutely cannot know about this. After careful consideration, they decide to let Attorney Oh handle it. Attorney Oh works very swiftly. Relying on her legal knowledge, she scares the man so badly that he is stunned, easily resolving the issue. After this incident, Ji-wook's uncle is very pleased with her and asks his sister if she intends to groom Attorney Oh to be her daughter-in-law. Ji-wook's mother denies it, saying that with Ji-wook's conditions, he must certainly find a girl of equal social standing who has never been married. These words are accidentally overheard by Attorney Oh standing outside the door. Furious, she turns around and hands the CD recording of the uncle's crimes to Ji-wook. Ji-wook never expected that the family member he respected most had always been doing illegal things behind his back. For the first time, he gets angry at his mother, declaring that he will not get involved in this lawsuit anymore. Ji-wook's mother doesn't know what to do, so she calls Attorney Oh to ask for the reason. Attorney Oh pretends not to know anything, continuing to act as if she is on Ji-wook's mother's side, but a smug smile spreads across her face. Also, that same night, Ji-wook cannot bear the shock and drinks until he is wasted. The staff have no choice but to contact Seol-hee to come pick him up. Seol-hee originally didn't want to go, but she couldn't help worrying, afraid that something might happen to him while he was drunk. Arriving at the restaurant, Seol-hee meets Attorney Oh. Attorney Oh immediately feels threatened, thinking that Seol-hee still has feelings for Ji-wook. But Seol-hee has no interest in fighting for affection with her, and since the official girlfriend is already present, she feels she doesn't need to stay any longer. The next day, the merchants and the corporation appear in court. Seol-hee has withdrawn from the lawsuit and hasn't been involved in this matter recently, so she has devoted all her passion to music. After the band's new song was released, it quickly became famous all over the country, and their performance schedule is packed. In another turn of events, Hwaja's husband works at a taxi company. The company is about to celebrate its anniversary and hopes its wife's band can come perform. Hwaja thinks a small company isn't worth wasting time on. Seol-hee immediately lectures her, saying the original purpose of forming the band wasn't to be big stars, so how can she start getting arrogant after just a little achievement? Seol-hee then personally leads the members to the taxi company. The employees cheer excitedly, and Seol-hee also feels very fulfilled. At the end of the performance, a stranger hands her a CD, which contains evidence of Ji-wook's uncle's crimes. At this time in court, the critical moment has arrived. Under Attorney Oh's defense, the merchant side is continuously losing ground. The elderly lawyer is powerless due to insufficient evidence. Just as the defense is about to conclude, Seol-hee arrives in the nick of time, handing the CD to the elderly lawyer. The situation changes suddenly. Ji-wook's uncle and mother turn pale, looking as if they've swallowed a fly. Only Ji-wook remains calm. The first trial ends, and the next part must wait until the following session. Before leaving, her former mother-in-law calls Seol-hee back. She is sick and tired of this ill-fated connection with Seol-hee, and just wants to stay far away out of sight. Yet Seol-hee keeps hovering in front of her face, and the things she is doing are destroying her family. Her former mother-in-law declares that this lawsuit will absolutely not end the way Seol-hee wants. Seol-hee remains calm. After all, the video has already been handed over to the judge, and as for the result, she trusts that the judge will deliver a fair verdict. The former mother-in-law stares at her, her eyes filled with such hatred that it looks like she wants to hack Seol-hee into 1,000 pieces. The person who used to be so submissive and obedient has now actually learned how to fight back. Upon returning, the elderly lawyer asks Seol-hee who gave her the CD. Seol-hee says she doesn't know, but she memorized the person's license plate number. Before long, the elderly lawyer traces the owner of the license plate, and it turns out to be someone from Ji-wook's law firm. Could it be that the CD was given by Ji-wook? Seol-hee decides to find him to ask for clarification. On the other hand, Ji-wook's uncle and mother are so angry that they are beating their chests and stomping their feet, searching everywhere to see who revealed the secret of the CD. Ji-wook ignores their emotions, advising the two of them to compromise with the small merchants and offer appropriate compensation. But the two of them are still unwilling. Doing so would result in a huge loss. Ji-wook coldly offers a countermeasure. If they still don't want to lose money, then they can just wait to go to jail. However, he didn't expect his uncle to be so crazy as to send someone to kidnap Seol-hee. Initially, the two had arranged to meet, but Ji-wook waited forever and didn't see Seol-hee anywhere. He immediately called the elderly lawyer and learned that Seol-hee had left a long time ago. Only then did he realize that something might have happened to her. He recalls his uncle saying he wanted to find the person who revealed the CD, guessing that Seol-hee was very likely taken by his uncle. Sure enough, not long after, he finds Seol-hee at his uncle's place. Ji-wook feels utterly frustrated with his uncle's incorrigibility. The judge already has dirt on him, yet he still doesn't know how to restrain himself and continues to do stupid things. When the time comes, no one will be able to save him. It takes a lot of effort for Ji-wook to persuade his uncle, and at the same time, he begs Seol-hee not to pursue this matter further. Because she is busy participating in a performance, Seol-hee doesn't have time to pursue it and leaves in a hurry. It turns out the band has an important performance today, but Seol-hee is very late. By the time she arrives, the performance has already ended. Seol-hee feels very guilty, feeling that lately she is always dragging the team down. But what surprises her is that the fans haven't left yet. Even though it is raining heavily, they persist in wanting to hear them sing. The band members are very touched, so they jump onto the stage and start performing, unable to let down any of their fans. The next day, Ji-wook personally goes to the law office. On behalf of his uncle, he proposes a reconciliation plan with the merchants, returning the market to everyone and simultaneously compensating them with a certain amount of money. Seol-hee is very surprised by this result. This is completely different from Ji-wook's previous behavior. She chases after him outside to ask if he was the one who gave the CD. Ji-wook doesn't answer clearly, but sincerely thanks her for not pursuing the matter of his uncle kidnapping her. This complicated case finally comes to an end, and everyone is happy, except for attorney Oh, who, after learning that Ji-wook was behind it all, is filled with sadness. And Ji-wook's next words send her mood plummeting into the abyss. Ji-wook proposes ending their relationship. Attorney Oh cannot accept this outcome. Her heart is filled with resentment. She sacrificed so much only to end up with nothing. As for Ji-wook, after resolving everything, he feels truly relieved. During one of Seol-hee's performances, he also comes to watch. This time, Ji-wook's eyes no longer hold the mockery and disdain they used to. Instead, there is admiration and recognition. While performing, Seol-hee, up on the stage, also accidentally spots Ji-wook standing in the audience. But at this moment, she is no longer affected by external factors. After the performance ends, the two of them meet. Ji-wook finally frankly admits that Seol-hee was right. He recalls that in the beginning they married for love. It was just that later on he forgot that original purpose, making Seol-hee's life difficult. Hearing these words now, Seol-hee feels very happy, as if receiving a precious gift. She feels comforted that Ji-wook has finally realized this. Ji-wook also solemnly apologizes to her. Finally, the two shake hands to make peace, wishing each other a better future. In the days that follow, Seol-hee's band becomes increasingly famous, and their workload grows. They have almost no time to rest. If they aren't on the road to a gig, they are performing. At the same time, Seol-hee and Tae-hyeon get entangled in dating rumors. It turns out that all this time, Tae-hyeon has always silently stayed by Seol-hee's side. To say that Seol-hee hasn't been moved by him would be a lie. Seol-hee then probes Tae-hyeon's opinion regarding the online rumors. Tae-hyeon frankly tells her that he hopes the rumors are true. The two have been close for a long time and share a deep chemistry. Getting together seems like a natural progression. However, an unexpected incident occurs. Attorney Oh suddenly demands custody of their child. She plans to go to the US and wants to take their son with her, citing the reason that she fears Tae-hyeon will neglect their son once he has a lover. No matter how much Tae-hyeon reassures her, Attorney Oh remains unmoved, even stating that she won't give up even if they have to go to court. Helpless, Tae-hyeon tells Seol-hee about this. Seol-hee doesn't want to see anyone get hurt because of her. She knows Taehyun loves his son dearly and cannot easily give up custody. Therefore, she proactively contacts Attorney Oh. She says that since divorcing Jiwook, she no longer hates Attorney Oh for being the other woman. Furthermore, she and Taehyun are just friends, and in the future, she doesn't want to rely on men to live. She just wants to do what she likes. Seol-hee's words make Attorney Oh reflect. After some consideration, she decides to give up custody. Taehyun is completely unaware of this. Seol-hee also doesn't plan to tell him, feeling that maintaining a friendship is good enough. From then on, Seol-hee remains busy every day, gradually feeling overwhelmed by the workload. Not only do they lack time to rest, but they also have no time to gather as friends. Hwaja too is so busy that she no longer has time for her husband and children. One time, a program asked them to lip sync. This becomes the trigger that makes Seol-hee explode. Initially, they started down this path out of a passion for singing, but now everything seems to have changed. Seol-hee decides to halt all activities and let everyone go home to think it over carefully. Everyone cries a lot, but in the end, they decide to respect Seol-hee's opinion. Although the feeling of being famous is wonderful, compared to, they value their families more. After reaching an agreement, everyone decides to organize a final concert to say goodbye to their fans. In the final performance, everyone puts in their utmost effort, singing with all their hearts, as if wanting to pour all their emotions into it, feeling that this life holds no more regrets. After the performance ends, Hwaja returns to her sales job. Thanks to her hard work, she quickly becomes the company's top salesperson. The other two friends continue to develop their careers in the entertainment industry. As for Seol-hee, she returns to her old profession, becoming a lawyer specializing in defending the poor and needy. In their spare time, the good friends still gather to practice and continue singing, always holding firm to their original purpose on the path of pursuing their dreams. This is also the very spirit that their band has always pursued. This brings the movie to an end. Thank you for watching the entire video. See you again.